right, you bunch of yahoos, strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention. And welcome back, folks, to another episode of Toxic Masculinity. I would normally be introducing my other half, that dastardly mustachioed who hides ham sandwiches and stuff like that up into his mustache there at times, Mr. Don Fry, the Predator. But you know, it's a little too late for Don. He got a little sweepy, So he had some fun, kind of buried me a little bit earlier. Well, he's not here, so we get to say whatever we want behind his back. So as we move on, tonight's guest, we have Mr. Jeremy Elliott. He is all the way from Ontario, Canada, via the Zoom that we are. That so many different things are taking place now via the internet. And Jeremy Elliott is a combination. He's a martial artist. He's a professional wrestler. Uh, just an all-around good guy is what he is. And we're going to be talking about a number of different things, martial arts, his own personal training, what he does. But then tonight, the big thing is Jeremy has a match coming up with Mr. Suzuki. And we'll be putting up some pictures and stuff like that. But we'll start in here, Jeremy, and then we'll just say hello to the folks, and we'll kind of start moving in here with questions.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for the introduction, sir. And yeah, thanks for you and Tony having me on. Yeah, sorry that Mr. Fry could not make it, but hey, we'll be doing this again. So it's a pleasure to talk to you guys this evening.
I'm sure we will. And again, we're in different time zones, all three of us, because Jeremy's back in, even though he's in Canada, Ontario, he's on Eastern Standard Time. I was at Eastern Standard Time earlier this morning doing my work. Thus, you might be seeing I got my grubbies here on still because I just got into my hotel room and jumping online to where the show must go on is what it has to do. And Tony is back in Arizona, so we're in three different time zones here right now, but we're making things happen no matter what, because that's what we do, right?
And Don sleeping with his bottle.
Yes, his binky and his banky, yeah, and probably with well, again, I don't know who snores worse.
It's a close one. They go back and forth.
Don has a bulldog by the name of Quinn, and if you ask Don, it's his number one love in his life is his bulldog. But I've actually spent the night there a few different times at Don's, and I'm like, what is that racket noise I'm hearing right now? I mean, it's like snore and snore and snore and snore. And I look at the Don's room, and there she is sleeping right on the bed right there. She's snoring up a storm. Don's snoring up a storm. Like wow, dueling banjos right there. Except it's just dueling snoring is all it is.
So. Always a good time.
Yep. All right. So Jeremy Elliott, you and I first met. Gosh, how many years back now would this be? It's got to be at least a decade plus, probably more like 15 or more years ago now.
It's probably in and around closer to 15 than a decade. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. And it's all, we met originally through professional wrestling, wasn't it? Or was it through the martial arts?
I think the first time we ever got together was a combo weekend. I really think we did some seminars together on the amateur wrestling side, and then we the next day I think we went out to a pro wrestling show. So I think that's the very first time. It was through both aspects.
Well, again, I don't rely on my mind to remember anything anymore. Just too many things just keep on happening. But the reality is, your first profession was professional wrestling, or no? Actually, you were a martial artist prior to being Give us a scoop. Which one were you first? Was it the egg, the chicken, or the egg here right now?
I was a martial artist first. I've been doing martial arts since I was 7 years old. I was the typical kid who sat in the movie theater, and I saw Daniel San holding up his trophy, and I'm like, I looked at my mom and I said, hey, that's what I want to do. And I've been doing it ever since. And it just ended up, I was what's called an uke. And so we were performing choreographed fights, and I was traveling all over North America, being the bump guy. And so it just so happened that I crossed paths with professional wrestling. My mom was always a fan. My grandma was always a fan. So I was naturally a fan. But then when I found a local pro wrestling academy, I figured, you know what, this is going to be a great opportunity because I can take the best of my worlds and combine them. I can use this pro wrestling and put it into my martial arts. And then soon enough, I brought my martial arts to the pro wrestling world. And like people like yourself, it's just they go hand in hand.
Yes, they do. Okay, so what was your very first martial art that you jumped into? I know you said it, but I missed it. Just it was what?
So I grew up doing a mix of traditional karate as well as Japanese jiu-jitsu. Those were my first two arts and my first two black belts.
Okay, so basically you were learning striking arts, but you're also learning grappling arts. So you're being the complete martial artist.
Absolutely. Since day one, that's what I was taught, and I still firmly love and believe it to this day. I think the striking and the grappling combinations is just a must for anybody. It's fun, especially when you're teaching. Kids love to punch and kick things. It's a great energy release, and then of course you can still do the wrestling and jujitsu side of things, which is your more self defense oriented bullying stuff.
Yeah, well, again, when you look at young people now, how many young people really engage any kind of true physical activities anymore?
It's very hard. And hey, you and Tony are in the States, and it's been quite different, especially for me up here in Canada. You can recall last year, I had you do a Zoom presentation just for the kids and
Yes.
adults because we weren't even live in training, let alone actually allowed to do the physical contacts. So the kids have missed it, and it's something that needs to be pushed back into society. Like our communities need this culture back, and we need to cultivate it ourselves as our leaders.
Yes, though, well, again, I call it lack of leadership worldwide anymore,
Mm.
that is taking place. And that no one country has top billing over the other. We have just total lack of leadership across the board. And hopefully, with some elections that are coming up, things will start turning back around and we can get back to the world as we once knew it, where we're actually out and engaging and interacting with folks, actually shaking hands, making contact, the whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
It's so, yeah, well, I could go off onto that one.
That's a different podcast by the sound
Yes,
of it.
yes, yes,
Absolutely. I'm sure we
yes.
could. Our
All
side's
right.
not any better, so we need to continue. That's why, sometimes it's not even looking to the leaderships at the top, is we just got to do what we can with the
No,
people that we
exactly.
come
We can
across.
we can do things in our own local communities, and to where we take our own leadership. We take control of our own destiny. And are we doing things wrong? No, we're not. We're
No.
getting people outside. We're getting our sunlight. We're interacting with people. This masked era is over, and nobody simply said, it's over. But everyone was good about saying it's all on. But
Hmm.
anyway, let's get back to when I first met you. You were actually you were renting and stuff like that, but now you're an owner, a whole different feeling right now. Rent, you don't own nothing, so it's kind of going. You kind of feel like you're throwing money away. But now being an owner, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it's amazing, especially to, you know, see where I came from, and, all the ups and downs as we all have in our lives, to be able to actually, have a property that is mine. Like you said, we're not paying rent anymore. This is something that as a business owner we always dream about, and it's an investment for my future. And it's just been fantastic to be able to do it. We're right by the riverside. Like, I can look out my window and see the water. We have 2 floors of training, a little weight room, and it's just great. We can all call it home, and yeah, pushing onwards and forwards.
No, that's again. It's just I can just hear it in your voice, pride of ownership, and that's to me is like you'll spend way more time down there than you'll ever spend at your home, because really the reality is it's a secondary home, but you'll still spend more time there. I know I spend more time in my training facility than I do in my home, because it's you're there, you're making phone calls, you're setting up emails, text message, the whole 9 yards, but then you're over there, a little painting up this, a little fix up there, trying to make what's the new idea, what's the new class that you can add. So
Yeah, well, the good news is for me, my property's all in one, so I'm actually sitting in my house now. So,
oh really?
yeah, connected through that door, down some stairs. The academy's right here as well, so it's an all-in-one property. So I lucked out, so I don't have much of a drive to work in the mornings.
Okay, shouldn't be late now.
No
Well, I
excuse.
mean, well, that's cool. Is like is like a do you have like a 2 bedroom? Is it a 1 bedroom type of a studio apartment, or what do you have? If you
It
could get
was
it that
somebody's house. It was somebody's house attached with the store. So what I did was I kept the upstairs part of their house, turned the store into mats for the upstairs training room. We already had an office set up that he had. And then I took his downstairs, which would have been his man cave and storage and all that, and I just gutted it. And that's where I put the second floor. I turned the whole basement into a little raised, elevated wrestling floor, and then put a weight room where he used to do storage and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's an all-in-one. It's great.
Well, well, speak about some of the different services that or classes that you offer right there. What's the name of the place if people want to simply look up on the website or something of that nature?
Yeah, so absolutely. Anybody who's in this Niagara region can look us up at unitedfamilymartialarts.com. It's 3883 Main Street in Niagara Falls. And yeah, ufmaniagara.com for any information. We run all the programs like we were just talking about, striking programs, grappling programs. The kids who, when they first start their journey, I actually really encourage them to get a whole well-rounded education. So we start them off and we're striping their belts with their kickboxing techniques, with their wrestling techniques. And as they go to the next belt, they learn new kickboxing, new wrestling techniques. So we're always trying to just add on to their striking and grappling abilities as they go.
Is it always like when you work with the kids, do you always do like a little, basically a split session, so that you spend a little bit of time on the grappling portion, then a little bit of time then on the striking portion, so that they're getting the best of both worlds?
Yes, absolutely. Most of the kids are coming 3 times a week. So throughout the week, they're going to get a little bit of each. Some days we may have to focus, one day may just be the guard passing or something like that as a focus. Another day, like today, we spent time just on boxing and working on boxing defense. So, but by the time they've gone through a whole month, they've seen all the different curriculum, and then they can just recycle it again the following month as well.
No, again, that's a fantastic what you're doing there again for kids. I know we had some other conversations a little bit previously. Do you have with the ability that you have right now? You said you got multiple rooms, so multiple classes. So I mean, while you've got a kids class going, can like moms and dads be doing? Because a lot of times moms and dads they bring their children there. And I know like a lot of martial arts studios, a lot of times the parents just sit there and watch. But if you could get the best of both worlds to where kids are doing a class, then mom or dad could do something for them in your weight room or something like that. Or if there's some striking bags or things that you kind of showed where they could utilize equipment, at some type of additional charge, you're getting the best of both worlds. Do you have those kind of programs as well?
Yes, absolutely. We do have an adult fitness and kickboxing program, and that's exactly how you're saying it. The moms come on down and they work on their they like to hit things too. They take out their aggressions of the world and punch and kick the bags and stuff. And then, yeah, it's great to do introduction to weight lifting for them as well. So when the kids are training, they can be coming downstairs and working out as well. So absolutely.
That's why I used to tell the moms and dads, I go, you can bring it in a picture of one of your significant others, and you can put it up on the bag, and you can go crazy at that point in time because you're just taking out the bag, so that you go back home, you're more serene and calm. In your mind, you can have all the thoughts you're going to at that point in time, but take out your aggression on the heavy bags and hand mitts and things of that nature, and then be at peace.
Our memberships are cheaper than marriage counseling, is what we always say.
Love it.
Cheaper than home wall repairs.
Yes, that too. And you don't break your hand with the wall punch sometimes. You put the glove on, you're a little bit safe there.
Okay, but Tony, I will put you on a spot there. when anytime talk about relationships and stuff like that, what's one of the first things that Don will always say, especially if you think about getting
Prenup.
married?
Prenup.
Yeah.
Get your prenup.
There you go. That's yeah, Jeremy. That's a big advocator. I think he wants to be an attorney down the road because he always talks about relationships and always saying making certain that you have a prenup in place. So.
Does he happen to know from experience? Is this
I mean, I do believe there might be a little bit of a learning curve in there, but if you were to ask Don would probably, not a real big advocator of marriage at this juncture of in life. So,
hey, we all learn from experience, don't we?
exactly. Well, that's one of the best teachers right there when you realize you just lost half of your stuff.
Yeah, that's a real quick recognition.
Oh yeah, not too often do you make the same mistake twice. And there's I'll just say in the United States, going through some of those kind of things, it's it's a little lopsided the scales because a lot of times the scales are really tipped into a female's favor just because usually the female is more of a nurturer. The mothering instincts, the more of the nurturer. The pops is there. He's the one that's trying to bring home the bacon. Trying to finance to support. Anymore, like inside the United States, it takes two people's income. You can't live off of one person's income anymore. Moms still they'll take their maternity leave, but as soon as they get back to working, they really have to work. I mean, it's kind of sad that has happened to the family place because in a lot of ways, kids really don't get the attention that they need at home, and they don't get the parental kind of upbringing. So a lot of times when they're at school or if they're at their martial arts uh, school or any other extracurricular type activities, they may be spending more time with their friends and they're being influenced by their friends, whether that's good, bad, or different, or if they're over at their friend's parents' home or something like that, and may not be running the same type of household that you might be running for your place. So there's the dynamics of a normal household has changed significantly over the years where the television or the laptop has become the babysitter, or I should say more appropriately, the cell phone has become the babysitter because there's so much stuff on here. They should be propping on up and they can throw on a movie and boom.
Entertainment, right? It's their entertainment hub right there.
Yeah, I see that with my own kids that have their family started. So I've got 5 grandkids already. So I'm seeing it amongst them to where it's easy for them to prop up a little cell phone and it's got one of their little favorite little shows that they like to watch. And they literally, you see them simply just going, and then they just get sucked right into that mechanical device. Whereas Jeremy, when you were a youth, what did your mom and dad basically? I mean, did they allow you to stay in the house?
Well, no. First of all, we were out. I always laugh. I tell this story all the time that the neighborhood kids and I would always, we'd be out doing stuff. And so my grandfather, he had an antique store here in town. And one afternoon he pulled up to our backyard with a box filled with boxing gloves that he had bought at a garage sale. And he just dropped them off, and all the neighborhood kids, we put the gloves on and we had tag team boxing matches in the backyard. And it was the best. It's such a fond memory, but that would never fly today. Like there's no way that anybody would allow these kids to be beating each other up in the backyard.
I mean, Grandpa did he show you any aspects of it? You just simply just dropped out this box and then you just basically you guys had watched enough television to know that you put gloves on and you start going after each other, bebopping each other. So
that's it. Like I said, I don't know where we got any concepts from. Like I said, we're doing a tag team tournament, so that's obviously a wrestling thing. It's not even a boxing thing. But then we know we got boxing gloves, so we're just punching. So yeah, we'll figure it out. We're gonna teach ourselves. It'd be the same thing. Here's a bat and a ball, and yeah, we're gonna figure out how to throw it or how to hit it and go from there. Is that exploring? But that's what the kids are missing today. My biggest thing and my biggest concern is the creativity to explore. They're not encouraged to explore and be creative, and that's where they're going to find some of their biggest strengths is out there exploring, and they need to be encouraged to do that, and they just happen to not, because as you were saying, like, they're spending 6 hours a day 5 days a week in the same four walls, and that's a tough thing. So they got to be a lot more encouraged to get out there and explore and find themselves.
But again, when you look at the rise of kids being depressed, and again, only because they don't have that physical outlet. They're not getting out there. They're not running around blowing the stink off themselves. I mean, there was that time where basically early in the morning you're out the door, and a lot of times, I mean, you had to go back home when the street lights were coming right back on. You better get your butt back home because the street lights are coming on. And again, just all depends if you're a city kid or if you're a country kid. So we basically would be outdoors almost all day long until it's starting to get dark. We got to get back to home.
Well, so we talked about weights a little bit, and so I actually have a lot of times where I spend teaching kids how to do weightlifting, because it's, once again, that's something I think should also be taught in the elementary schools.
But at what age? Okay, what age do you think it's appropriate for kids to be doing weightlifting exercises as opposed to body weight exercises?
To be honest, I think very young. I think between like the Russian textbooks and the Bulgarian textbooks, they would be introducing the most simplest things at 8 to 10 years old.
Really?
And I don't see why not. Like, so I actually have one young man, he's 6, and I laugh because he is a superstar. I taught him how to do a deadlift. All he had was this small, thin PVC pipe. I hung a couple of chains on it, which was probably about 12 pounds. And man, the 6-year-old, boom, he's pulling the PVC pipe. And I'm like, there, the 6-year-old knows how to deadlift. Like that. And now that translates because, okay, hey, find your wrestling stance. Show me how you hinge at those hips. Get your hands up. And it translates the same thing, I think strength needs to be taught. Like, it's something. So if you look at like shot put, for example, shot put is a wicked sport. It's great to do, but you can teach 5-6-year-olds. You can have a 5-6-year-old division where they're just throwing that little tiny 1-pound beanbag, but get them the techniques, get them the fundamentals. And once they have that, and then they start training and stuff, by the time they hit high school and they start throwing that 16-pound shot, boom, they have way, because they've done it, And so I think that's why, if we want sports to grow, if we want all of our other things to grow, I think the strength training and weightlifting needs to be a part of it. And I think we can, because as we were just talking about with kids, there was nothing, if we were outside and, hey, somebody said, I think I can lift that rock. And no, you can't lift that rock. And well, watch me, I'm going to go pick it up. And there was no, you better be careful. You might hurt yourself. You might throw your back out. No, I'm going to go pick this rock up, or I'm not. And then
a lot of times it's the fact that you challenge somebody that's like going, somehow you're going to think mechanically how I'm going to actually pick up that rock. I mean, it's like, doggone it, he kind of challenged me. I'm going to pick this rock up no matter what here at this point. And sometimes you have to teach people. You got to have that type of that boneheaded attitude to see it through. You're not going to have failure. Failure is not an option.
There's your creativity again. You're going to become creative to see how we can figure this out, and that's great, because then you get stronger and you grow.
It's not about how much you can pick up. It's about the technique at a younger age, about how to learn how to do it to get to the weight.
Oh, 100%. And that's where a lot of, coaches, I don't know if they understand it themselves. So maybe that's why they can't teach it. But you're right, Tony. It is 100%. Like, if you're deadlifting wrong, you're not going to see those results, and you might hurt yourself early on, right? Like, if you try to lift too heavy. But that's where the supervision and the coaches do come in. You got to have coaches who can really nurture that and make sure the kids are doing it correctly.
Watching the technique and all the aspects. Now, see, like in the States, we used to have this thing called the Presidential Physical Fitness Awards, where there were standards. You had to be able to run, jump, push-ups. I mean, there was half a dozen different things. I remember that, like when I was in junior high, that was a big deal to get that presidential physical fitness patch, that you achieved all of that, you were able to do all this.
Yeah, I remember those.
That
They checking your fat, everything. They would check your fat percentage of everything on
yeah.
your body. And
Okay, but Tony, when's the last time that's been spoken about in the United States?
I think when I was in like junior high, I think the last time I remember
Yeah,
hearing about
I
that.
think it's been almost a couple decades that Jeremy, it's not even spoken about because the bar continues to lower. When
You don't want to hurt people's feelings and tell them that they're not in good shape, or
well, yeah,
more
but
someone can do more than I can. No,
yeah,
everyone deserves a ribbon nowadays.
yeah. That's again that's part of this. We don't want to hurt people's feelings. To me, it's like going, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose, and that's where now, like Toy just said, everyone gets a participation ribbon, trophy, medal, and to me, it's like going, being from the wacky world of professional wrestling. That's where I would like to take on that heel character and just have that rubber stamp and going, "Hey, dude, you're nothing but a loser." Just tattoo that forward. Come back better when got your man pants on, or got your big girl pants on, and you might be able to do a little better. I think that would be great.
Yeah, it's so
maybe
funny
maybe I
that
shouldn't be that person.
no, it's so funny that we're kind of almost the opposite, right? Like Canada's the same. We don't have any fitness standards. It's not encouraged. Like even I think the structures of sports doesn't happen. The introduction to sports doesn't happen, and I think that's just a shame. But like you're bringing the top people down instead of trying to push the bottom people up.
Right.
I love stressing, like our class, our team is as strong as its weakest link. It's our job. That's where I got to take that top guy. And you know what? Hey, this guy's having some struggles. Go help him. Go bring him up. This person now learns how to be a leader. This person gets stronger. And as they get stronger, they gain confidence. And at some point, they're going to be able to now do it with somebody else because they're going to remember, oh, hey, somebody helped me. Now I'm going to go help somebody out. And now we're constantly bringing up, everybody's coming up. The strength is coming up. The confidence is
Yes.
coming up. And that's what we need. We're failing to do that.
Failure in our education system. Like this education starts with kids going to school. They need to be taught like normal things in life about how to be a man, change a tire, do your freaking taxes. People don't show
Oh no,
kids how to regular
Tony,
life and important things that are
I
going to
want to
happen.
wake up. I want to wake up in the morning and identify as a 14-year-old girl now.
Well, you can, Dan. It's okay.
Oh, I could put little barrettes in my hair, and then I can participate in girl sports. I'm a loser as a male in the powerlifting, but now as a female, a newly recognized female, Daniela, I rule the world now.
Yeah. Number
To
one.
me, it's like, Jeremy, I don't know if you got this kind of stuff happening in your country, but that's what's happening in the United States. To
Yeah,
where,
well, once again, Canada, I just find that we're so lacking of sports. I don't think I've personally seen it happen up here in Canada as much, but like you obviously know it's happening. Um, but like so once again, as Tony said, it's the education system in general.
yep,
Only because their goals are different. Like they're not really teaching these kids to face adversity. Yeah, when you're starting to talk about the simple things like a lease, like I didn't know what signing a lease was when I was first trying to open up a facility, and that cost me a lot of money because I took a man at his handshake at one point and thought I had a facility, but
well, that's sad that you can't still do that. That was an acceptable contract at one time era, but today's society, you got to
yeah.
have triplicate paperwork, and even then, that you can go to a lawsuit, and it's still going to cost you some time. It's going to cost you some money, even though you eventually prevail. But even proper documentation doesn't even protect you.
So a saying that we have here that my kids always talk about is we use the term embrace the suck all the time. And that's just, they got to be faced with adversity. They got to be faced with the struggle. Hey, strength is built that way. Same thing as we were just talking about weightlifting. Where do I build my strength when I'm struggling to get that bench press up? And then the same thing. And, you have how many fights under your belt? There's been times where there's adversity, but you're not just going to give up and quit. You're going to continue to fight. And that's why martial arts is also so great for kids, because that's what they should be learning. And right from the education system, again, they spend 6 hours a day, 5 days a week there. It needs to be taught.
The martial arts world is what I say, it's the last frontier where true character traits are being taught. Everything that you talked about, they're phenomenal character traits. You're teaching people to look, they're not going to be successful at everything they do, so they have to realize that. But then also, you have them line up. They bow into you. They're always like, yes, sensei, yes, sir, no, sir. I mean, but again, these are great character traits that, when you go into, again, I'm looking at American schools, because I don't know what they're like in Canada schools, but in American schools, I mean, kids, they're, if you're not a strong teacher, the kids are going to just run over you, but then corporal punishment is gone out of the school system, been gone for decades, to where now a kid like, you touch me and my parents are going to sue, and stuff like this, and the kids think that they can get away with saying everything. I still remember the days of walking in classrooms where that paddle was proudly on display, and it might even say onto it, Board of Education. And if you got out of line, that teacher brought you right up to in front of the class, would light you up for maybe a couple, 2, 3 swats, kind of embarrass you and stuff like that. To where, did you act up again? No, because there were consequences to your actions.
Yeah, I was just going to say consequences to your actions. That's exactly right.
But when people keep going, so no, little Billy, don't do that. No, little Julie, don't do that. That, sooner or later, just words are what are they going to do for hurting the kids? Take a timeout. Oh, gee, I don't want to work here anyway, so sure, give me a timeout.
There's somewhat of a disconnect right now too, I think, with you got a lot of great teachers, but because they have to follow whatever the government or the systems are trying to make them follow, there's sometimes a little bit of handcuffed. And because of that, I don't know if they get necessarily that full bond at all times with the kids, because they're not teaching to the individual either. There's no individuality in schools, where it's just here's what the curriculum is, and here's what the government says you need to do for your standardized testing or whatever. And it's just generic. And kids aren't like that. Like, no kid's the same. They don't learn the same. They're not going to express themselves the same. They don't feel the same. So how can we just teach them so generic and, make them just regurgitate information? They get bored with that too easy.
Yep, I'm just going to reject, because I mean, some folks might, as this clip is being aired, I always kind of mention right now that we're here speaking with Jeremy Elliott, and he is the owner of United Martial Arts, located right there in
Niagara Falls, Canada. Yep.
Niagara Falls, Canada. And
have you and Dan, did you guys ever wrestle each other? Have a match against each other?
No, we've never had a one-on-one singles match. I believe every time we've been on the card together, it's we're always the good guys getting cheered. So until he did that heel turn he's talking about, I don't know if we'll have a match.
Well, I just want to do that because I just think that's a lot of fun.
On you.
Well, obviously, it's a lot of fun being the heel character in the first place. I mean, it's the easiest character. Even if you break character, you start laughing, you can start going into that. I'm not laughing with you, folks. I'm laughing at you. And then you can go into some type of a heel type of thing. But that's kind of the fun part about being a heel. There really is no wrong. Sometimes it's hard as a baby face to stay in character because that heel keeps pushing it to the limits of, I just want to strike back, but you can't, because again, there's the psychology to bringing a match up. So that you want, the crowd gets behind you, and so you bring them up, you let them down a little bit, you bring them up a little further, you bring them down, and then boom, you pop it, and there's just a nice little rhythm to it, but there's a skill set that comes with that as well. And you have to do it all through your actions and your body language and your facial expressions.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%.
So you're a baby face, Jeremy?
Yes, Tony. Yeah, I'm a baby face. For most of my career, I definitely have. Maybe when I first started a little bit, I was more of a heel, and even actually at one point was under a little bit of a mask as well. But the last over 10 plus years now, baby face. Like I said, I think it goes hand in hand with I've been Jeremy Elliott. Sensei's out there, the kids are cheering. I got the values that I'm trying to teach, so I think it just went hand in hand, which is natural baby face.
Yeah.
Do you
So
kind of like a gimmick of like, are you like a martial arts teacher, or what do you
Yeah, I'm just me. I wear my a gi
the
top,
gi?
my belt to the ring, MMA shorts, and a rash guard. Most times I've gone, different times. Sometimes I'll wear long spats. Sometimes I'm wearing the kickboxing Muay Thai tights. For this upcoming show at the Meridian Center, I have Valley Tudo. I'm going old school Valley Tudo tights and stuff. So yeah, but it's all
will
around a martial arts gimmick.
will you be wearing like Donnie like gloves too, like MMA gloves that are fingerless, so that you can actually grapple, maybe throw like, strikes and things of that nature?
No, being
Okay.
like even on the pro wrestling side and pancrase side, no gloves, strikes, whether they're palm strikes and forearms and chops and all of that, kicks, full kicks. So yeah, I'm just wearing my wrestling boots, my Valley Tudo tights, and away we go. Whether we're striking or grappling, we'll see where it goes.
All right, we've been talking about the martial arts aspect right now, but you've got this big match that's coming up against Suzuki. So, what is the actual date of this match that's coming up?
Yeah, so it's the absolute biggest match of my career. I'm so excited. October 30th. It's a Sunday night, October 30th, St. Catharines, Ontario, and it's at our arena, the Meridian Center. And so we're hoping to pack a couple thousand people into the arena. And this is Minoru Suzuki's first time in Canada. So we're here looking
Really,
at a
first
guy.
time?
He's never been to Canada. So I get to be his opponent. And like I said, when we look up and down, he's the king of Pancrase, one of the founders of Pancrase,
Yeah.
New Japan, All Japan champion, Noah champion. Uh, he trained, in Florida for so many years under so many catch can wrestling legends. And so he's like one of us, where he is such a pro wrestler and an MMA fighter, and it doesn't make any difference. It's all the same to him. And I want to help, show that this is the style of pro wrestling, that it's my vision for what we do as well. And I want to just show that, hey, in Canada, here we are, and we do it the right way as well. This is how we do it.
No, very, very good. Because again, if you, I just know that learning the normal professional style, it's a very light type of a style, but you still see a lot of high spots. You see a lot more clotheslines. You see a lot more European uppercuts, things of that nature, and chops are always big. But I still think that even in a pancreas style match, I still see European uppercuts would be good, because again, it shows a great physicality to it. I still say fans like chops, no matter what, whether you chop at the chest or if you pop that back. I mean, it's just the way that they it stings pretty good, but again, it's pretty easy to sell a chop to the chest or a chop to the back. That's for sure.
Oh, and the back one, if you don't see the back one coming, it sucks.
What's your
Yeah.
signature move, Jeremy, and finisher?
So my finisher is a rolling heel hook. So I throw my jujitsu right there. I try to throw a lot of jujitsu into my matches, because it's something that's not quite done. You see so many technical wrestlers, like you see some great technicians who come out of, like, let's say, the British style and stuff like that. Well, I've tried to really bring the and more modern jujitsu, not just because there's a lot of great, as I mentioned already, catch can grappling submissions, but to be able to pull into the ashigaramis and the X guards and those sweeps and stuff like that, to play around a little bit more with them and have an audience who really doesn't know that and has never seen it in pro wrestling, for me to get it across to them, I think is fantastic. So I really like trying to use that, and so my submission based game has been very effective as my finishing move.
Yeah, I mean, and again, if this match, I know we've talked about this before, Tony, in some other previous type interviews, but like the Japanese audience, although they're kind of a quiet audience, they're a very educated audience to where when they finally do see, a submission lock hold or something like that, there's a great appreciation. Almost like in unison, you hear them all go, oh, and then they all applaud and things of that nature. So they're much more, I would say, studious
They're more
of a match.
respectful of the technique and what you guys are doing.
They are, and they totally understand it as the sport because they've seen it and they recognize these moves. Because it's the same thing over there. Like, how many people have done New Japan Pro Wrestling, but also done, Pride? Don Fry, for example. Mr. Fry was the late Antonio Inoki's last opponent. I think I always look at obviously Don Fry gets every match they always refer to as Takayama, and they're just fighting and punching. And
Yeah.
Takayama, hey, he did the UWF. He was Suzuki's tag team partner. He was the Noah champion. He fought Suzuki for 40 minutes in a Noah championship match. Actually, I believe Mr. Severn, you fought Takayama in UWF, if I'm correct as well.
Yes, again, I was part of that whole operation right there, and I remember when he first showed up, so
he was very young when I think he fought.
Yes.
He was comparative to when he got in, but it just shows the contrast in Japan where all of those are the same thing. They're all sports and they're all recognized. Where over here, it's sometimes two different worlds. You don't get the UFC guys watching pro wrestling, or you don't necessarily get. I teach a lot too. I coach a lot of pro wrestling now on Saturday afternoons, and so many of the guys who they just know WWE and they want to be a pro wrestler, but to talk to them about amateur wrestling or actual jiu-jitsu or UFC, they don't necessarily have the same comparisons. So I think it's great to be able to try to incorporate all of that and get people to see it.
You definitely have more of that here in the United States because the crossover athlete is been seen. I mean, when both Ken Shamrock and I went from the WWF, I should say going from the UFC to the WWF. At that time, the UFC was not really known all that well, and small viewing audience, and as it was, Ken, when he went in there, he was simply just known as the world's most dangerous man. And but it did, but I came in there. I came in there with two different title belts. I had the NWA belt, which is for the National Wrestling Alliance, and then I had a UFC title belt. But I had Jim Cornette as my mouthpiece. I was never going to be that strong, cut promos type of an athlete, but basically I had Jim Cornette, which was a great voice for that type of aspect. And then all I simply had to do is go out there and just take care of business is all I had to do. So, having an amateur background, it was hard sometimes working with some of these guys because, I'm hitting actual fireman's carries. I'm hitting with headlocks. I'm hitting with Russian 2-on-1s and all kinds of foot sweeps because I had a little bit of a judo background. I learned how to use my legs as a second pair of arms. And so it was like they saw a lot of wrestling, and that's sometimes always Jim Cornette loved it because the marquee says professional wrestling. Doesn't simply say talk me to death. Doesn't say sit there and flex all time. I mean, let's give us some wrestling every now and then. So
you have to, and I joke about that a lot. That like they're learning a 450 splash or this RKO, but then okay, waist lock, huh? Like
yeah,
you're wrestling, kid. Yeah, like this has to happen.
Yeah, well, the funny part about that when you say the 450 and stuff like that, like going, I always would tell whoever I was working with, I go, if you ever see Dan Severn climb up on the second rope, please attack me because I have a fear of height. If I get to the top rope and you expect me to jump off to splash somebody something like that, no, it's not going to happen. That's not my forte. I'll let the flyers do all that kind of stuff, but
That's what makes wrestling great, though. You know what's the funny thing that I love about it? It's like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and you have a smorgasbord of anything. And so anytime somebody goes to a pro wrestling show, you're going to get exactly that. And that's what's really awesome about it. You can get a strong style match, a English technical match. You can get the high-flying lucha style as well. And so you can cater to just about anybody, and then they can appreciate those styles.
Tony just see me wiping a tear from my eye as Jeremy mentions about the buffet. You know,
Yep.
I love the buffet.
That's Dan's favorite thing.
Yes, it is. It's
Got to
I
come
was
back to food. There's nothing that you can't relate to food, right?
The old
Yeah.
ladies need to watch out when Dan walks in the buffet.
Yeah, I'm that kind. I mean,
He throws
it's gonna.
elbows.
Yeah, but see, because I told you I have my own AARP card now, so they just said I could elbow them
Well,
out of the way right now.
They say Dan's not a striker. You wait till you see the buffet line.
He learned how to throw real well. Real well, yeah. But,
You might if you're sitting across from me though, Jeremy, you may have to wear welding goggles because I kick some pretty good sparks with that fork hitting that plate there at times.
hey, we're talking buffet. I can't wait. I've been in a hardcore training camp, and I've been watching and counting calories and doing everything I can for training
Okay.
and eating.
And when you started your training camp, where were you at weight wise? Because I know we talked about this a few days ago. You were at one weight, but you dropped down, been getting more and more shredded. So where were you at? Where are you at now?
It's been very interesting. So I fluctuated anywhere between that 200 mark and 195. I found that I was wrestling pretty comfortably at that 195 mark. But yeah, once I started the training camp and just the little things, right? Upping your water and stuff like that, then the weight started to fly off. So currently I'm sitting here at 182.
Nice.
I find like I've been eating a little bit more though. I've been trying to up my protein a little bit. But I know as we get to this fight week, I think same thing. I think I'll probably even up my water a little bit more. I'll probably cut a few last things out, shed that last little water weight. So who knows? I could be walking in next week, maybe closer to 175.
Nice, nice. What is that? I don't even know what Suzuki tips the scale at that.
He's pretty big. I think he's closer to the 220 mark actually. So
220 and height wise,
5'10",
220.
5'10", 5'10",
Okay.
220. Yeah, I think that's what he's going these days. So he's got a few inches on me, and then I think for me with the weight loss is just mainly right now I'm thinking the cardio wise is I know this guy can go. I've watched all these matches, you know, like you were mentioning Ken Shamrock. He fought Ken twice. Actually, before UFC 1, before he entered UFC 1, Ken tapped out to Suzuki at at Pancrase. And so I just know the last match I watched with him was against his brother Frank, and Suzuki was on top position dominating for about 25 minutes. He was doing top mounts and side mounts and knee on bellies and back mounts and referee's position and just about anything he wanted for those 25 minutes. And it was pretty impressive. So I know his gas tank is going to be phenomenal. So I think the dropping of the weight is the main thing for me, just to make sure my gas tank doesn't run out.
You got the cardio to go. The cardio to go.
So this is on October 30th, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Sunday, October the 30th, St. Catharines, Ontario, and it's a full card. Like the lineup's impressive. Like the main event, Impact World Champion Josh Alexander is going to be fighting in a triple threat with Cody Deaner and Jesse Bieber, who's the Canadian Wrestling Federation champion. But there's going to be starters. RVD's going to be there. Bushwhacker Luke is going to be there. And Bushwhacker
really? Bushwhacker. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Eric Bischoff's going to be there. So it's quite a good lineup. So
pay-per-view? Because how would people be able to watch this if they want it? Is it televised?
No, I don't think it's going to be a pay-per-view. I think the company is working on that. It will be filmed. I know it's going to be shown, obviously here in Canada. I think they're working on some other things too, because obviously with the streaming services like Impact Plus, I think they'll be filming it. And then there's New Japan World that has this. So my match with Suzuki may be available on New Japan World. So I think there'll be some avenues, and then hopefully shortly after the event that it can be released somewhere so everybody can make sure they can catch it if they didn't catch it live.
Whoa, what about tickets themselves? If people want to get that ringside seat, is there a website or something like that they could go to?
Yeah, they can go right to Ticketmaster.com, Ticketmaster.ca, depending on where you're living. Because obviously we're close enough to the border, like anybody from Buffalo and Rochester can come out. That's only an hour driving distance from us. And so yeah, Ticketmaster, and the event is CWF Resolution 11. So CWF Resolution 11.
And that's all taking place on October 30th. St. Catharines.
Ontario.
Okay, all right. There we go. St. Catharines. I was thinking, what was I missing right now? Jeremy Elliott taking on Suzuki.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, this is a legend. Fun story that we've talked about as well in some of the lead up interviews is Suzuki actually in the early days of Pancrase also tapped out one of my instructors, my catch wrestling coach is Sean Doherty, who was at one point the youngest fighter in UFC, where he entered UFC 2 at 18. But he went over to Suzuki's Pancrase and fought him and lost via Kimura in 2 minutes. And so we've joked that this is trying to get some retribution for my sensei 20 years in the
Redemption
making.
match.
Ah, yes. No, I think that's great. That should be the promo that you should cut.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I believe I sent you the YouTube one. I sent a YouTube one that was put up, and we definitely talk about Sean and then just the reasons for why I want the Suzuki match.
No, great opportunity for you, Mr. Jeremy Elliott, and you're doing great things at the United Martial Arts. I know I met you when you were at that point where you were just renting buildings and stuff like that, and now the owner, a great more pride and ownership, and the fact that you've got a home right on the real estate makes it that much more sweeter yet, to where now you can be there hands on all the time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, any other, like, I don't know, short-term goals or long-term goals that you're looking at for the training facility first, and then we'll go back to professional wrestling. But let's go on the training facility here again.
Well, since I've been actually combining both, I think I would like to talk about something that's really close and near and dear to me, which is called Embrace Our Journey. So this is actually, I was actually out of wrestling for a little bit. I have a godson. He's my boy. I've raised him ever since he was, days old. And he was born with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which is FASD. And so I have spent tons of time with him. And as he's gotten older, he's played football, he's thrown shot put, we've been in the weight room. And at 15, he's 6'3", 320
Wow,
pounds.
15?
Yeah, and actually, sorry, yeah, I would say closer, yeah, maybe even taller than that. I think he's closer to 6'5". I think that was, I gotta go look. I may have just lied. 6'5", 320, and yeah, he's just 15. So we were doing great things with him. And it's interesting because we talked about the education system. And when he entered high school, we found that there was a big disconnect between, the high school level and what, special needs may be. And so over the months of December and January, we started coming up with this Embrace Our Journey. And in January, I actually bought a red pair of wrestling boots. So the reason why I wear red boots is after the FASD campaign asked me about my red boots. And so that's to get the conversation started about FASD. So I figured, okay, I'm going to wear these boots into the ring. And then sure enough, so back in March, I started wrestling and I've been wearing these boots. And the campaign has just taken off. And it's done so well that we've had some wrestling shows that we've done around here that raise money for the cause. And what are we going to do with this money? This is where the martial arts comes in. The money that we raise from Embrace Our Journey, we put into United Family Martial Arts and offer kids who are on the spectrum, any kids out there who have FASD or on the spectrum, or any families that need help. That money will go to sponsoring them. They can come for a 1 month membership through our funds. We get support you by giving you registration. Here's your first month in your uniform. And so the Embrace Our Journey, which started out with just a pair of red boots, is now crossover, where we've had FASD Day was on September the 9th. We had wrestling seminars, we had karate seminars, we had kickboxing seminars, we had the falls illuminated up red for FASD. And it's just taken off, and I love it. And I want to just make sure we can reach out to as many kids as possible. And as my boy, who in December, he started pro wrestling, which is why this started to all take place. I think back that I was just sitting ringside watching him do his first pro wrestling lesson. And if you would have asked me then, here we are 10, 11 months later, oh man, you're going to be headlining a show at the Meridian Center against Minoru Suzuki, I would have thought you were crazy. But this is what we brought to. And since then, he's actually entered his first battle royal. Took 8 people to eliminate him. So he was super pumped about that. And hopefully he even has a small part in the Meridian Center show, as well as they are doing like a pre-show rumble as well. So hopefully he can be a part of that. And we're just going to keep sharing this cause. So that's the number one goal, is to just keep this Embrace Our Journey going, because it's a part of my pro wrestling and it's a part of my martial arts. And it's just to help out more families in our community grow stronger.
No, I think that's a great name. Embrace Your Journey. That's a great name.
Mm-hmm.
And again, especially for young people and what you're doing with your godson right there, that's fantastic. We just not enough kids get exposed to male role models, because it's typically, you look at a lot more females are typically the caretaker. And well, again, I'm not sure what the stats are in Canada, but it's like in the United States, marriages, I think, are probably, I don't know, you get probably, I'll say 50, it's probably a 50 to 60% chance it's going to probably end up in divorce, because people just they get married too young. They don't have any real skills, or what they're even understanding what marriage is all about. And they're good at reading repeat after me, and all these kind of stuff, but they never really set in to think about forever. So that's tough. Our our youth have I think a lot of shortcomings from not on their own, but because as the adult leadership has kind of dropped the ball around them.
And it takes a village to raise a child, so we need to strengthen our village. It
Yes.
can't be just these one-on-one things. You don't have to sit in your own little household and develop your own. No, you got to go out and, like you said, find those positive role models that are out there. And the more positive role models that we can get out there, the better. And even as I stated before, one of my favorite things is trying to find the young kids, the teenagers, who they can develop their own leadership qualities to help other kids, because then of course that's even better. It's one thing as me as an adult telling a kid that they could do something or this and that, but it's way more impactful when a teenager who is closer to their age and is cool that tells them that as well, and says, hey, you can do this. And that's the ripple effect. That's throwing that pebble in the pond and watching the ripple effect, because then others are going to help others, because they'll always remember who got them there, and it's their village and their community, and we need to strengthen that as well.
Yeah, well, again, just like you said, the peer pressure, because every kid wants to kind of just belong to their group and stuff like that. So if you could get other like-minded kids, or at least get the kids all thinking the same path and stuff like that, you are building the leaders. You're building that leadership quality. Again, overall strong, positive character traits.
You just said it too. All they want to do is belong. Hey, I was never a whiz. Chemistry, algebra, man, they did not. That's not what I remember. And these kids, after everything that they've been through these last couple of years, just stuffing that down their throat is not the most important. They just want to be around their friends again, be around their community, and belong. Every kid wants to be accepted, and that's what we should all be striving for.
Yep, totally agree. Couldn't have said that. That was a perfect analogy there, Jeremy.
It goes back to what Dan was saying earlier about the phones, and how parents are just letting that raise their kids. Oh, here, watch the screen. Parents need to step up at the plate and raise their kids. That's instead of and show their kids right from wrong. And what Jeremy was just saying too, kids just want attention and to be appreciated. They don't know right from wrong, and then sometimes the only attention kids get is negative. And what do you think they're going to do? Well, if I'm bad, they give me attention, and then they don't even realize that's what they're doing. It's just well, every time I do this, something bad, they actually pay attention to me. So I'm going to go smash this and then it's just, subconscious after a while.
So true. So true. Not talked about enough, that point right there, Tony.
Parents need to step up to the plate. Parents need to step up to the plate and don't let other people raise your kids. You need to do it.
Yes.
It's, and then we need to toughen up our next generation. It's unfortunate
it's leading by example is a huge deal. And parents are sometimes just being a little bit extra creative too, because it is a different world with these kids, but you can definitely find so much, because that's the one bonus that at least the interweb has. You can find anything online. You can find any information. You don't need to go to the library and read an encyclopedia anymore. It is right here at our fingertips. So if your child's interested in something, you can definitely find out about it, because you do have the exact same access that they do.
Well, and then it goes back to the parents too. Help them, show them what they need to, not what you want them, but what interests them. Instead of, as a kid, what's going to interest you more? Learning about history, or learning about, watching bums fight on the street, or, just stupid shit, like people they want to watch the stupid shit that's not really going to show you what of course that's what you want to do when you have the choice, but there's other things that can interest you. But you got to give them also like a limit of, okay, you can only watch this for this long. You need to learn this first before you can have this fun. And
Yes, learning timetables. Yeah, I think that's really important, because just like as we said earlier, they'll watch that cell phone forever because that's the only interaction, or they're on that laptop forever. I mean, even as adults, we live in a very isolated society because most people are on their laptops. They're interacting with that laptop set to where people don't know how to look each other in the eye. They don't know how to shake hands anymore. But of course, well, last couple of years, you weren't even allowed to make hand-to-hand type of contact to that, because they're all afraid of 6 feet social distancing and things of that nature, because they're all afraid of spreading the COVID viruses and things of that nature. So again, got to get back to some type of more normal activities. Get
Absolutely.
out there.
You can combine it. You can use it. So I even think, like, I know parents really harp on the video game thing, but there's actually a lot where some of these kids who are playing things like Call of Duty, it is actually helping them learn some things where they could tell you all of the histories of the world wars and what dates and
Yeah.
where, and they could tell you what that plane is in the sky.
different
So
types
take
of
that.
guns and
Yeah.
magazine
So you can
attachments.
take that when you end up all of a sudden, okay, so in Buffalo, we have a Navy shipyard. Okay, so now my kid that's been playing those video games, let's go down to the Navy shipyard. Let's walk on those USS ships and let's see what they're all about live and in person. So I don't care. You can go back after and play some video games, but we're going to spend a day out. We're going to go get some burgers and we're going to walk around the Navy yard, and you can experience what you've been watching on TV live and see it and feel, what it's like to be there.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly, because you gave them, okay, they've been playing it on the screen, and now they get to actually touch it, walk on it, see it for live in person. That's a very awesome experience in itself.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
So
So Dan was talking about role models and inspiration. So what about you, Jeremy? Who inspired you or to get into this industry, or someone you looked up to
So as I said, I started my journey because of the Karate Kid movies, and I wanted to compete. Um,
who was your Miyagi?
my number one, I just want to go. I got to give it up. It's my mom. My mom, she's got a wonderful story too. She was a bipolar woman who she actually found out she was pregnant with me while she was in the mental hospital. But it was right there that she made the decision and committed to make sure I lived the best life possible. I grew up with a single mom, poor, on welfare. But when we found that martial arts connection, she found my way out. She made sure I wasn't going to be another statistic by getting me to the martial arts classes. And we didn't have no car. I didn't get drove to classes. She fed me after school, and I walked down to the bus stop and I went to go train.
Wow. I mean, you did that at what age? I mean, that was like 7. Did you say 7?
7 to 10 years old, I was walking to that bus stop
Wow.
all the time. Yep. Until maybe I guess in the summer, sometimes I could ride my bike down there. Which is also probably something that's unheard of these days, is throwing their kid at 10 years old on a bike or a bus to go somewhere.
Okay, on a bike, you be that. You mean a motorized bike, or
Oh
or
no,
or, or,
I'm
or
riding my 10 speed. I'm riding a little
well,
10
again,
speed.
I'd be facetious because most kids now they don't know how to actually
Oh,
physically pedal. They jump on these electric scooters. They jump on everything is mobile.
yeah,
You
and I
know,
was actually almost looking at one, my river back here. I saw an electric surfboard, a motorized surfboard. I thought, that'd be kind of cool running down my river. But yeah, just jetting back. It's my mom. That was my role model, and then um, I lucked out to have a community, to have a village that supported me, and I could sit in the back of a van. I could sit on the floor of a van, and I could sleep on the hotel room floors of wherever we traveled. But I got a chance to compete. When I was in high school, I was everywhere. I saw Winnipeg, Manitoba. I saw Washington D.C., Chicago, Illinois, Tennessee. I was in Cookeville, Tennessee, where the hotel was in one time zone and the auditorium was in the other time zone. And all of this, I think, really developed me to be who I am, because I saw these other communities. I saw other people, and as we all know, whether it's the wrestling mats or a weight room, it's all similar. The football field, where at this moment we're all together. We're in this as a team. There's no race, there's no religion, there's no classes, there's no rich or poor, black and white. And this is something that I learned from being on the roads. And so to me, I think that's some of the most valuable stuff that I learned growing up.
nice. Like I said, it's just you got a great story. A lot of you had some good support, but also you had a strong mom that made certain that you had opportunities. So it wasn't any kind of traditional household that you grew up into, but you
There
know
is
the
nothing
but
traditional at
there,
all.
there's not very many households that are very traditional anymore. That the days of watching the Waltons, that's long gone. We
Yeah.
live in that world. But I think as we started in the beginning of our conversation, that the family dynamic has changed. There isn't really a mom and a dad, and they're sitting around there, and dad's got his pipe in his mouth and stuff like that. No, that era is gone, and so men got to be cooks in the kitchen just as well as what women are have to be cooks and the whole nine. And then usually both people are in the workplace on top of all of that.
Yeah,
I
I'm a
think
I'm a
the
better cook than any woman I've ever been with.
Oh wow. That's fantastic.
Tony's a pretty good cook there, Jeremy. I've been down Fry's Open a few times, and Cody's puts out quite the spread there. So he
What's
is
on
good.
the Arizona barbecue out there? What is in that menu?
Whoa, man. We love the smoked pork,
Mm.
and then sausages, ribs. Yeah, there's some good places out here. You gotta love the barbecue. We got a
Oh,
I got a Traeger in my backyard that can make some pretty mean ribs. Let me tell you.
really? Ooh. So when are we having an Arizona get together? Mr. Severn, when are you going back out to Arizona?
Well, actually, I'm slowly migrating that way. I'm in Chicago right now. I'll be. I just drove in this evening, and I will be doing a couple seminars tomorrow, and then on Sunday, if you saw how packed up my vehicle is, it's kind of like going. I look like the Beverly Hillbillies going down the road. But I've had right out to Arizona, and I will be out there for the winter months.
Things
Not
are
that I will
tied to the
be.
top of your roof and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Tony has a lot of fun when I just say, hey Tony, use your imagination, come up with some kind of a comical picture. He's got all kinds of he's got all kinds of stuff all over the vehicle, even like a dead animal. Which
Yep.
I mean, it really wasn't too far of a stretch because one of my last trips to Wyoming this past summer, I came face to face with either an antelope, mule deer, or a deer. It didn't stop to identify itself, but it totaled out my vehiel in the
Oh
process.
wow. No.
So that was a scary experience. I've never had airbag go off in my face like that. So that's again, we've talked
Wow.
about that before, but that was how I was actually getting a little cocky with the because I made such good time driving from I think I was from Coldwater, Michigan, all the way to Cody, Wyoming, and that I was gonna get it early that morning. I actually called the promoter that was putting everything together. I said, that Jeremy, I'm going to be at the hotel by such and such. We stop by. Why don't you stop by? We'll have a cup of coffee together. Probably half hour later, boom. Yeah,
Well,
and there
hopefully
was
smooth sailing to
nobody.
Arizona.
What's that?
I said hopefully smooth sailings
No,
all the way
no,
to
it'll
Arizona.
be. I've made that trip so many times. I could probably do it in my sleep.
So yeah, as long as nothing's jumping out at you, for sure.
Yeah,
I would love to
exactly.
come down there and see you guys one day. I would love to,
Yeah, we'll
especially
make it happen.
the cold of Canada. I would like to get down to some of that Arizona, beautiful warm
Well,
weather.
yeah, especially with again, Jeremy. As I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit more intelligent there. Towards like, I don't want to be in Michigan during the winter time, even though the state motto is it's called the Water Winter Wonderland. Well, I like the water aspect. Um, I just don't like the winter aspects anymore. The novelty of driving in snow is long gone.
Mm.
Simply going out to your car to scrape a window or to start it on up, and even when you try to start that car, the car goes because it's cold too.
Yep.
Dan,
So
does your lake, the water around your lake freeze? Is it that cold over there?
in Michigan,
Yeah,
oh
around
yeah,
your
no,
around your island.
yeah, no, it'll all be froze. Well, Jeremy, what Tony's talking about is like basically a little over 3 years ago, I ended up buying another property. I have my training facility that's now in Coldwater, Michigan, but over in Howell, Michigan, which is roughly about an hour and a half drive away, kind of east of Coldwater. Um, I ended up I found better than a waterfront property. I ended up buying an island.
Oh wow.
I mean, it's so other people when they hear it, but no, it's not in the Caribbean or nothing like that. It's inside the United States. It's on freshwater. I I would be nervous if I had an island in the Caribbean because when you're swimming out in the ocean, there's lots of things out in the ocean that can hurt you and or kill you
Yep.
or eat you. And I'm going, you know, I simply know that when I'm out there in my little floaty in my lake, I don't have to worry about nothing coming after me.
Well, that sounds like a great time too, for sure. I'm sure
Yes.
you enjoy that in the summertime. It's got to be
Yeah,
beautiful.
it is. I've taken some pictures of it over time. It's turned into a much more beautiful property over the course of 3 summers. And literally, even as I was closing it down, I really just a couple weeks ago, I'm already like missing it because I know the additional projects I want to be working on just to keep bringing up another level. So
Yeah.
I
Always.
refer to it. I refer to it as Gilligan's Island, and I think I'm Gilligan half the time there because I'm just a big goofball that's on there. That I never owned a boat before. I owned a canoe. Is the most. Now I've got a pontoon boat to get to and fro,
Oh,
and so I mean it's pretty cool. The neighbors, no one can just simply just drop that in at you because they need a boat to come and see you.
yeah. Floating around on that pontoon would be great. You got to put some mats on it, bring some mats over to the island. You could have some little island fights and stuff like that.
I have a sand volleyball court that I've had because I contacted the local high school wrestling coach, and so I introduced myself as coming to an area. He knew I was. I go. I also need some laborers, and wrestlers are good workers. Because I Tony knows that I haul dirt and stuff like that over there, and I don't mean just a little bit of dirt. I'll have a dump truck
There's a
drop
lot.
like 10 yards, which is the biggest dump truck that they have, and it'll take 3-4 days, and that 10 yards of dirt is gone. I'm a proud owner of 40. I think I have 35 to 40 orange 5-gallon Home Depot buckets. So I literally you're shoveling on shore. You shovel these buckets, then you grab the dolly and you wheel it over onto the pontoon boat. You set them all on there, and the pontoon boat will hold about just about close to 30 of them is what it will hold before it sets mighty low in the water. And I don't want to sink the pontoon boat as I go across. And literally that's how I'm putting in, different types of trees and things of that nature, because it's very interesting ground that's there, because there's a lot of trees and other vegetation, but when you try to dig a hole, it's not like digging a hole in a normal yard, because the roots are everywhere. They're looking for soil, and I could actually throw, say 6 or 8 inches of dirt on top of something, and literally in just a couple months' time, you go back there to try to dig, and you'd be surprised how many roots have already grown into those areas.
Oh,
Because
wow.
it's like it can always it can't really go out into water. It needs something right there. So I look at that, it's an investment into my property, but again, it's everything I do is just a little bit beautification and raising the value of the property. But then I just do things where, like this coming summer, to be a little shed that I could put in things, but I need a studio so I could do setup and to have stuff like what Tony's got. He's got a nice setup there with the American flag, and usually there's all kinds of tomahawks and guns and the whole 9 yards, because we're we're true Americans. Where we there you
There we
go.
go.
See, yeah,
Yep.
you see all the weaponry now.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
sweet setup. That's a good setup.
yeah. But we've been here talking to Jeremy Elliott, and he is the proud owner of the United Martial Arts Training Facility. He's no longer renting; he's the actual owner of it, where they teach all kinds of great character traits in the martial arts fields, classes for both kids and adults. And he also has a great opportunity coming up here on October 30th at St. Catharines, Ontario. He will be taking on Suzuki in a professional wrestling match here, and it will be a pancration style match.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's the as we said earlier, the part of the smorgasbord buffet that we're going to bring to the table. Obviously, I'm going to go with whatever he brings, and like I said, if he wants to strike, we're going to strike. If he wants to grapple, we're going to grapple. Who knows? He may, chuck a chair at my head as well. So I'll be ready for that.
You just never know when it comes
Yeah.
to the wacky world of professional wrestling as to what is going to happen. And if folks wanted to get tickets in advance, or where would they go?
Tickets on sale now at ticketmaster.ca or ticketmaster.com, depending on what side of the border you're from. There are still some floor seats available, I believe, that will get you into an early meet and greet. And as we said earlier, you got superstars like Rob Van Dam and Eric Bischoff, Bushwhacker Luke are all going to be in attendance. So they'll be doing a meet and greet. There'll be a couple pre-show matches. And then I want to say 7:00 is the first bell time. And it's going to be an amazing card. Like I said, Impact World Champion Josh Alexander's there. And hopefully it's our big arena. We're going to sell out as many seats as we possibly can. It will be definitely one of the biggest independent wrestling shows in Canadian history. I can guarantee that.
Fantastic. And Jeremy is coming from us live from right there in Niagara Falls, Canada, as he's at his training facility, the United Martial Arts training facility for kids classes, adult classes. And if parents and our kids want to find out more information about that, go to your website.
www.ufmaniagara.com for more information.
Fantastic. Tony, any other questions?
I think we're good. That was good.
Any
but
other things that you want to promote here, Jeremy?
We'll got to get Jeremy out here. We'll make it happen. We'll make you some good old Arizona barbecue.
I would love to come out. That's a definite deal. I'm going to hold you guys to that.
I thought you was going to offer maybe like some slightly roasted scorpions, and then maybe a little rattlesnake or something like that.
That's what I was talking. What do you think Arizona barbecue is?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Meat, we'll go for. I'm a carnivore.
Some roadkill stew, some squirrel.
Hey,
Half a
I'm sure
wiener?
by the sounds of it, if you got all these smokers and stuff like that, you got some sauce seasoning and
That's
smoke.
right.
It's
You
gonna
won't
be
even know.
delicious.
You won't even know.
No, I won't care either. No, for
Nope.
sure.
I'm sure we'll get together. We will break bread and we'll do another episode of Toxic Masculinity. It's been a true honor and pleasure to have Mr. Jeremy Elliott on tonight's episode. This basically concludes another episode of Toxic Masculinity. If we happen to offend or defend anyone here tonight, well, put your man panties back on because we're men talking about manly things here. And you still have the right to watch us or not.
That's right.
All right.
Thanks,
Sign
Jeremy.
it off.
Appreciate it.
It was
Take
awesome.
care there, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks for
All good
having me.
stuff.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.